It is Brewmance on the radio, the show that is just filled with heart. He's Rob Hunter. I'm Mike Russell. Each and every week, we gather around a beer of the week, but this is January, and it is our challenge of the month. Rob is going with non-alcoholic beers, and I am going with spirits only. So let's start with my man, Rob Hunter. Rob, what you having to drink today, buddy?
Going with one of the big guys, the Heineken Zero. So I've been told this is good, but if it tastes like Heineken, how good can it actually be? I'm just kidding. So we're going to give this one a whirl and see how it goes. But I got to say, I'm 23 days into this no alcohol challenge. It hasn't really been that challenging yet. So I'm kind of like,
it has been for me. It has been for me, Rob. Rob, yes, you not drinking alcoholic beers has been tough for me. It has, because it was like, hey man, let's go grab a burger and let's show prep and grab a burger. Maybe we'll have a beer. And it's like, oh, they don't have any beers there. And I can't go grab a beer because I got to have spirits. So, yes, I'm waiting for February. I'm excited for February to be here, Rob, because I want regular Rob and regular Mike back. I'm very excited about that.
But see, that's the interesting part about the challenge is that's what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to push you to your limit and say, wow, drive you a little crazy. So you see if we can how you can handle your crazy.
And I say hogwash. I want to get back to normal, but I do have my challenge all set up for next month, so we'll review that next week. And it's going to be more entertaining, a little bit more fun. I am doing spirits, so I am with the Bulleit Bourbon. That's right. This was, if you see the video on our YouTube channel and our Facebook page, that this was full at the beginning of the challenge. I have been celebrating that as well as the Fortaleza and the Irish whiskey as well. So I've been getting after it, but we are a show full of heart. Yes. And I stole that line from Rob. We had heart. We ate elk heart. And let me tell you something. When you think about an elk heart is like a football. It is gigantic. And processing this thing was no joke. It was something that took a bit to do. I mean, you had to, this was a big piece of meat, and we cut it into 3 pieces. And then we had Chef Slavo from Slavo Salt. Coming to go to slavosalt.com. Keyword brew, get you 15% off.
Best seasoning you ever eat.
Because he is an executive chef. That's why he knew how to make this salt seasoning, exactly what salt seasoning should taste like. So he came over and we did heart 3 ways. We did it on the grill. We seared it over. We seared it on cast iron, and then we did a pan fry on that as well. And then we ate it and we filmed it. Rob, how was it?
Delicious. Absolutely 100% delicious. I was incredibly surprised at how delicious it actually was. All 3 ways. I liked it all 3 ways. It tastes like a piece of steak without any fat on it. So it's just juicy, it's just tender, and it's just full of flavor. Yes. You think of heart, right? You have this sort of mental block. At least I did. And I was like, ugh, this is going to taste disgusting because who eats heart?
Yeah,
but I was willing to try it.
Yeah. You have an organ taste in your mind. Like it's going to taste like some weird organ instead of the muscle that it is.
Exactly. And that's what steak is. It's muscle when you really think about it. So there's a Stoic practice that Marcus Aurelius, who was he was like the Emperor of Rome at one point. He was a Stoic. He liked to call things by the real name because sometimes we have ostentatious names. So wine, you'd have a fancy bottle of wine. It's like, this is really old grapes, just to kind of break it down so it wouldn't seem so ridiculous. Like, oh, I'm so fancy. He's like, no, this is old grapes I paid a lot of money for. Same thing with the heart. But if you look at
it back then, she was big back then because he's so fancy.
He's so fancy.
That's right.
So good Iggy Azalea reference, by the way.
That's what I said. He was the Iggy Azalea. There we go.
She was the thing. But it's the same thing with a steak. A steak is literally animal muscle. And so is a heart. Like our heart is a muscle. It's the muscle that works out the most. Same thing with an elk. And as Mike said, this thing was massive. We decided to eat it. And it was interesting, too, because not only are you eating a heart, but it gives you a sense of this animal really was a living, breathing thing. Nothing says life more than a heart.
And it's good for you. It's healthy. It's not something that should be left behind. Because what I'm learning in the outdoor world is that when you harvest an animal, you take every single thing you can out of that. There's a lot of, especially with big game, with deer and elk and the like, that you field dress it. For those who don't know, field dressing is just basically gutting it. You're supposed to field dress right there where it fell. That's the law. So you leave that there. and then you take out the parts that you want, and then away you go, and everything else is left for all the other little aminals that want to come along and partake in your harvest as well. You leave a lot behind traditionally. There's a lot like rib meat you leave behind, heart you leave behind, liver leave behind, and I've just been learning over the past few years that no. You take that. That's good. That's actually really good. And you know me, I'm not going to harvest anything I don't eat. So I want to eat it all. Now I want to figure out different ways, like neck is left. The head, the skull meat is left as well. Oh, okay. Hold on, Rob. You've never had a beer and a cabeza taco?
No.
You will. You will. It'll change your world. It is such a delicious meat. It's like beef ribs. It's like a decadent meat. You're gonna love it.
I have had brain, so as we talked about last week on the show. So I mean, how much different could it be? So I've eaten heart, I've eaten brain. So okay, I'm gonna eat skull meat. Big deal.
And here's the deal: do you know a good beer that pairs with any of those? Anything you like.
All beers.
Yes, anything you like. It just
your
really
favorite
does.
beer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not like, oh, gee, what would you drink with a heart? I don't know. You into stouts? You into pilsners? What do you want? What do you want to drink with it? I was drinking an IPA with it. It was fantastic. Mm-hmm. Because my challenge, by the way, is it allows beer on the weekends.
Absolutely. But this is a challenge in and of itself too, right? To try to push yourself out of your comfort zone. And that's exactly why I'm doing all these challenges. So I'm going to do a year's worth of challenges to try to get myself out of the comfort zone, because the reality is, regardless of how we talk about politics, we live in the most prosperous time ever in the history of the world. If you were born now, and if you're alive right now, whether you're 75, 25, or 2, or 102, this century has been amazing. Automobiles, airplanes. We have a pretty good way to make a living, even a minimum wage compared to the rest of human history.
Yeah.
You're better off than just about any time ever. So I think about that, and I think about this comfortable life that we live. And I want to challenge myself, because growth comes when you get uncomfortable. So if you're sitting there looking at a heart and your mind is going, I'm going to eat a heart. This is really weird. This is really weird. This is really weird. And then you force yourself to put a bite of it. Either you pick it up or you put it on a fork, whatever you do, and you take a bite of it. You're like, whoa. But then you've met something. You've beat your internal talk. You've beat your excuses, your ways to talk yourself out of it. That's what I loved about it. And then when I tasted it, I was like, damn, this is good. I would eat this again. And I think if you put an elk heart on a plate and you fed it to the average person and you said it was a steak, they probably would buy it.
Yeah, if you said this was a new cut of steak that not a lot of people go after, you should give this a try, people would love that. Yeah, I had the same experience when I ate pigeon. When I had the pigeon breast, and I was just taking pieces, they were medium rare, and I was just taking pieces of the pigeon breast, and it tasted just like filet. It's a clean meat, doesn't need to be cooked all the way through. I like things medium to medium rare. And Slavo, let me tell you something. Slavo went rare. He went super rare on these things, and it was that was the biggest push for me, because I like medium rare to medium. I'm not a super rare fan, but dang, let me tell you something. This was rare, and it was fantastic.
I love that, because I just trusted him. And I went to Japan. I've talked about this a couple of times on the show and on the podcast. And we went to this restaurant in Osaka. And it was like this big kind of open air kind of place with several different little restaurants. So we went with a tour guide. And we just said to him, just bring stuff. Just order stuff and tell us what it is after we try it. Because it's way more adventurous that way. And then you're eating all the stuff. Because if you said you're going to eat beef tongue, you'll talk yourself out of it. If you're going to eat raw chicken liver, it is good, because we had it there. And the chicken liver was fantastic. But had he said, this is a chicken liver, my mind would go, don't eat that, don't eat that, don't eat that. Liver's disgusting. But I ate it and I was like, whoa, this is amazing. What is it? And he's like, chicken liver. And I was like, no kidding.
Shut the front door.
Yes, exactly. That's what awesome. I love. I just love the idea of pushing myself past what I think is the limit. Now, obviously, you don't want to do anything ridiculously dangerous, but still, there's little things you can do to just push yourself to grow and to try new things. And that's what 2021 is all about, because 2020 was a year of
Well, the first time I had deer, this is absolutely fantastic. Venison is fabulous, and I gave some to my wife, and she said, "I'm not going to eat that." And then I said, "Good, then take it to your dad. Take it to my father-in-law." Like 20 minutes later, I asked him, "What'd you think of that venison?" He goes, "What venison?" I look over at her. She goes, "Well, I tried one bite, and it was the best meat I've ever had." And she pounded the whole plate.
Boom. That's what happens when you try new things. In a moment, are we going to go back to old things? Or are craft beer festivals coming back this year? Maybe. We'll talk about it on the Brewmance on the radio, 550 KFYI. Give me a glimpse of normal, please. We all want a glimpse of normal. It's the Brewmance on the radio. Thanks for hanging out with us. This is where we gather around a drink. Normally a beer, but this year we're doing things a little bit different, at least to start the year. More on that in just a second. Open-minded, non-judgmental conversations over a drink. Mike is holding up a different kind of bottle this time as his January challenge continues. Mike, what are you drinking this week?
Bulleit Bourbon. That's right. This is what I started. This is what I started the whole thing of launching our challenge. Well, I saw you do a challenge, so whatever, I'll do the challenge too. And I went out and bought myself a bottle of bourbon, and then I got the Fortaleza, and then I got the Irish whiskey, and then so we'll keep playing. But yeah, I'm actually enjoying my spirits during the week and my craft beer during the weekends. That is my January.
That's a good one. I'm just going non-alcoholic beers, 23 days in. It's been way easier than I thought. So the thought is in my head that I may extend this. We'll see. See how I go. See, this is where you got to deal with the peer pressure because Mike's already shaking everything. His head, no.
It's not even so much peer pressure. Like, come on, Rob. We got to go have some fun, Rob. You got to get drunk, Rob. No, dude, we have a beer radio show. Suck it up. Find a new challenge. I'll do it. Do like 50 pull-ups a day. Do something like that. Work it out.
I'm drinking beer. It's just non-alcoholic beer. Same thing. But it's interesting to see how much better non-alcoholic beers than at least the reputation they've had. So far, we've had some good ones. Athletic Brewing Company makes some good ones. We got a Lagunitas we're going to try coming up probably next week here on the show. Partake, pretty solid. Those Partake beers, I do have one I'm going to review that we'll throw some point on the show here. Partake is 10 calories. It's an IPA, and they have a pale ale, 10 calories. And they have a blonde that's 15 calories. Yeah. Not bad.
Why is the blonde? Why is blonde more than the IPA? I did not know that.
I didn't either. I didn't expect the 5 extra calories. It's really going to impact the waistline. Me this week, I'm going with the big guy, the Heineken Zero.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that stacks up to some of the craft beers because obviously Mike and I find that craft beers overall are much more to our liking. We find that they're not as mass produced. They have better ingredients, so they taste better. So we'll see how this compares to craft like Athletic or Surreal Brewing or some of the other craft and non-alcoholic beers. We'll review it for you here in just about, 30 minutes or so. Yeah, but Atlantic City, Mike, is bringing back their craft beer fest in June.
See? Makes sense. It makes nothing but sense. It's time, people. It is time. We did everything we did in 2020. We followed all the dang rules. We closed down businesses. It was the debauchery that it was. And now they're sticking needles in people's arms by the tens of thousands every single day. It's time to really plan on opening up some events.
Yeah, and I think that especially outdoor events. So this is going to be outdoor. There's going to be, measures in place to keep people from congregating like on hundreds together. But still, we just need any sense of normalcy, any sense. And then you get to determine whether or not you want to go to this festival or not. So I'm curious to see how that impacts Arizona, because obviously for us, having a beer festival in June is not a great idea unless it's at night. So I don't know if we'll have anything until the fall. And this is going to be a big deal for a lot of the breweries and the Arizona Craft Brewers Association because that's how they make their money. So we're still, as we are now into 2020, at a challenging year. I am curious to find out how many people are ready to go back to normal. What percentage are ready to kind of resume some normal activities as we get towards the summer?
You open it doesn't even matter if it's the summer. You open up some sort of a beer festival, craft beer festival here in Arizona, you'll sell tickets in a day. People are that wound up, and they will do whatever it takes to get to something like that. And I'm talking about the vast majority of people that see that. No, but unfortunately, this morning I was speaking Steve Clark from the Arizona Elk Society on Fox Sports 910. And I got to tell you, he has a huge event every single year, and it is the banquet of banquets. It is crazy fun, amazing, awesome. And I said, just tell me this. you'll have your banquet this year. And he said, look, with all the city managers that I'm talking to, all the mayors, and even the governor's office, we are not doing anything for a while. So I think the biggest they could get was a 200-person event, when usually they're running about 12 to 1,500 people at their banquet. It's sad. It's basically defeating. It's deflating.
And that's going to carry over, because the government is the perfect entity to establish defeatism, because the government and a regulation can ruin anything. And that's kind of what gets in the way of the concept we call freedom. And it's funny that you have all these people like, freedom, but we need regulations. Freedom, but you can't do that because I'm not comfortable with it. Well, what if some of us are comfortable with it? And that's going to be sort of the conversation we're going to be having throughout this year, I think, is when to loosen up, how to loosen up, because governments are always ridiculously cautious, overly cautious.
But that's the free market system. I mean, that's the problem, is we're not allowing the free market system to take over on this one. We're not. Exactly. And if the free market system takes over, we'll know exactly who's ready to move and who's ready to not move. And that's okay, as long as both sides don't judge each other and we just kind of move along with our society and help each other out and do the best we can, then everything's going to be fine. But all of the mitigation measures that we have taken, all of the mitigation measures that we have taken didn't work, because we're still seeing spikes. We're still seeing hospitals overflow. We're still seeing all of that. At least we're being reported on all of that. And now that the vaccinations are here, then okay, let's start taking the first step and just moving forward and saying nothing we can do. It is what it is. If you want to get vaccinated, get vaccinated. You want to go to an outdoor beer festival, go to an outdoor beer festival. You want to go to a restaurant, go to a restaurant. We'll go to a brewery, go to a brewery. That's all we can do right now.
And that's what we've been saying the entire time. So, for example, I took a lot of heat because I went to a gym back in April. Small business owner I wanted to support so he didn't lose his business. And people are like, oh my God, you're not wearing a mask. I'm like, first of all, I just posted a photo. You don't know if I wore a mask in the gym or not. I didn't. You don't know, but you make all of these assumptions. And again, like Mike just said, none of that actually worked. So now we're at square one and we're like, okay, great. So now the problem is you have entities that exist to continue to scare people so that they won't actually do anything. So that is another problem of this nation's psychology right now, is fear has paralyzed so many activities. And part of the problem going back to April was, well, what if you hang out with me? And what if you hang out with, and you give it to me and I give it to my grandma? I'm like, again, that's a choice. So you know that I went to the gym. If you are comfortable saying, you know what, I'd rather wait a couple of weeks to hang out with you, I'm not going to be mad at you for making a decision that you think's best for you.
You and I were supposed to hang out. Well, we were supposed to. I kind of dropped it on you that I was in your neighborhood and let's grab a beer. And you said, okay, so situation. We had a buddy over and he thinks he has COVID. We're waiting on his test. Basically, it's your call whether we want to do this or not. And I say, you know what, probably not the good idea, because we have a lot of work to do. So yeah, and I backed off. That was our choice. And we could have been, forget this COVID thing. It's all a hoax. No, we're taking this very seriously, but we're also gauging how we want to live our lives. And that would include going to the Atlantic City Beer Festival. That would include going to a brewery. And it breaks my heart that I just learned that Transplant City Beer Company here in the West Valley, that they had this big, January was it. This was the month they were getting their big building and they had a cool patio area and all this stuff. And then boom, a few of their employees were not, they didn't test positive, but they were exposed to it. So they just did what they said, and their heart was the right thing. They said, look, we're not going to take any risks. We're backing this down. We're going to shut it down for a couple of weeks and see what happens. And this was their big month. This was it. This was so exciting. But once again, it goes down to the individuals. The city didn't tell them they couldn't stay open. The state didn't tell them. They said they made the decision. They said, you know what, this is what's best for our business and our people. And that is what we should preach moving forward as well. It's kind of what we've been preaching the whole time, but let's get everyone else to preach the same.
And that's, I mean, the other thing that drives me nuts too is we have access to the most amount of information, the easiest way to get it possible with our phones that we carry in our purse or pocket. So if you want to research COVID, like the other night, I woke up at 2 a.m, couldn't sleep. So for a couple of hours, I read about the new mutations of COVID and the amino acids and how the new strains the spike, which is how it attaches to your cells in your body. The new mutation is stronger. The spike is stronger because the virus is acting to survive. So, but I have an understanding of how the new mutation works. I'm like, oh, that's very interesting. I'm going to file that away and say, okay, is that going to impact the decisions I make? Maybe, maybe not. But, the fact that I have access to the information allows me to make better decisions than listening to some knucklehead in the government who only wants to scare me, or some media knucklehead not named Mike Russell or Rob Hunter.
How dare you?
I
The
know.
media is perfect. The media is angelic.
Oh, yes. They're not trying to get money and ratings by scaring the crap out of America one day at a time.
Clicks, clicks, clicks.
That's all it comes down to. Here, we want to have open-minded conversations, smart conversations, over a drink. Mine, non-alcoholic. Mike is bourbon. Two opposite ends of the spectrum. We'll review them a little bit later for you on the Brewmance on the radio. In a moment, though, I can't believe this is even being said. Are there too many hazy IPAs? We'll talk about it next here on 550 KFYI.
It is Brewmance on the radio, Arizona's only craft beer radio show. We appreciate you being with us. Hunter over there. Right here, we celebrate all things craft beer, and Rob is taking a challenge this month, and it is non-alcoholic craft beer. What you got, kid?
Heineken's Zero. So let's see how this stacks up with some of the other ones we've tried that are made by smaller local brewers. But non-alcoholic beers gaining flavor and gaining sales. So I thought I'd start the year off by challenging myself, see if I can go 30 plus days without drinking a beer.
Let's talk about flavor. Bourbon. Got a lot of flavor. Bulleit bourbon is my drink of the week, so we'll be reviewing that very shortly. Before the break, Rob did throw out this idea, this thought that we're reaching our critical mass on hazy IPAs, which used to be just, wow, they're juicy, it's fruity, it's wonderful, and now it's okay, we've had enough. I agree with what we found in this article. There are too many hazy IPAs, period.
I disagree. Again, this is free market. Let's go back to the free market. We've talked about the free market today. If brewers want to make hazy IPAs and you don't want to drink them, don't drink them. Because here's what's going to happen. If they sit on the shelves, they'll stop making them. Let the free market, let the beer drinkers of America decide whether there's too much or not. And this is
the question wasn't should you regulate it, or should the government step in or should we all revolt against people that are making hazy IPAs? I agree the free market system is going to do that. But me personally, I think that breweries are spending too much time with the hazy IPAs because I'm over them. But I'm not everyone. I'm me. So,
well, sure. And we're hopheads. We like bitter beer. We like IPAs. That's what our go-to is. So the great thing about hazies is, for someone that doesn't love IPAs, this is a nice introduction to get people to IPAs. Because I happen to believe the IPA is the pinnacle of craft beer. And I know a lot of people say that, but I think that those overall, for me, for my flavor palette, that's the beer that I want the most. I don't know why. I don't know if it's bitterness. I don't know if it's the hop profile. I don't know if I just like the flavor more than, say, stouts or porters. I just like IPAs. So I think that the journey to get more people to the IPAs is a good journey to go on. And okay,
did you say it's the hazy is the pinnacle, or just the IPA?
Regular IPA.
10-4. Okay.
Yes. That's I think how I measure breweries. I measure breweries based on how good their IPA is. Sure. So that being said, if hazies are the introduction, I like it. I want more people to drink hazies so they get to the pinnacle of craft beer.
Okay, then I'd say take a step and then pitch more Pilsners then pitch more, because we know that the IPA market isn't the majority of the craft beer market as far as sales go. I remember talking to John from Oso about a year and a half ago, and he's like, man, I had to get some super light beers in here to make sure that I had, basically something for everyone. So I would say getting people in, just like we did back in the day, because if we started with the IPAs we had now, Rob, you and I wouldn't probably be all about IPAs, because I remember when, was it Red Hook's Long Hammer? I thought was the most bitter, hoppy thing in the world. About split my head in half. And I thought, wow, man, that's just, now it tastes like water to me. So if we would have jumped in with IPAs, I think it would have had a different journey. I think jumping in with what people mostly tribute beer to, which is a pilsner or an ale, then I think that's what if the breweries want to keep open net, big net, open tent kind of thing. Let's kick in more pilsners than hazies.
Which is interesting too, because I didn't really take the pilsner journey. I mean, I think I started drinking beer. I started drinking Rolling Rock, the green bottle. That was back in college.
What is that technically?
Water.
Well, you know what I mean. What is that? What type of beer is that?
I don't know if it's a lager or if it's a pilsner.
Lager, I think that's
I think it's a lager.
Yeah.
And you drink your lagers, you drink your Bud Lights, and you're like, okay, you drink your Coors. I had a Miller Lite phase. I had all the big brand phases. But there wasn't a ton of craft beer lager or pilsner options. There was a ton of IPAs and a ton of ambers, because ambers used to be a bigger thing, at least a feel thing for me. I don't know the last time I've had an amber. So I would actually encourage brewers to make more ambers, because I found that the amber got me away from the pilsners and the lagers, because there are a dime a dozen. There's so many pilsners, so many lagers that the big brands make, that I would offer perhaps an amber to give you a different flavor profile, which of course is more malty, but it took me away from that idea of a beer is supposed to taste like this Heineken or a Bud Light. And then you're like, ooh, there's something different. Now we're in the ballpark, and that eventually led me to IPAs.
Well, okay, so going back to hazy though, I mean, let's say you were drinking your Rolling Rock, you're in your Rolling Rock phase, and then somebody handed you a hazy. You see what I mean? Like, that is a leap. That's leap. That's not even a step. You would be like, what is this? Has this got milk in it? It tastes lactosey.
But so would an IPA at the time. So I wouldn't have gone to the IPAs right then either. I needed a step in between. And a hazy would have been much more palatable than an IPA back in, 2001 or something.
Interesting. Well, I mean, it's your palate. I mean, for me, that would have been the exact opposite. Like, I think an IPA or just a pale would have been an easy step up into the hazies. I think like on the rung of whoa, palate wise, then we stick with I think a pale would be an easier step than a hazy. It's a hazy, but whoo!
But even back then, like if you're talking about our craft beer journey, pale ales weren't like a huge thing. It was, if you went to the store, you didn't see many pale ales. At least I don't remember seeing a bunch of pale ales. I know there was the Sierra Nevada pale ale, which is probably the first one I ever had. Pretty solid.
Hoppy. Yeah,
it is very hoppy though. So it's not like, okay, it's almost an IPA. There's not much different between their IPA and their pale ale, and I found that a lot of pale ales, that's the case. So going back to the hazies, I mean, it's my go-to. So obviously I'm a little biased because I do love me a good hazy IPA. I mean, Brian Helton's Northeast IPA is like my top 3 beer of all time. And, and my other is, you got Mother Road, the Tower Station, and you got Helton. Bang, to me. And then you got some of these other hazies like Wren House makes.
Is Tower Station technically a hazy?
No, it's a regular IPA.
Exactly. Right.
But if I want a regular IPA, boom, I'm grabbing the Tower Station. I want that haziness, I'm grabbing that Northeast.
By the way, let's talk about Tower Station coming in 12 packs now.
Hey.
That is a game changer. But it's dangerous because you feel you have a little mini. You feel like a giant because we spent so many years drinking the tall boys for the Tower Station. Now you get these little guys, and man, I got to tell you, they go down really easily. And you're like, oh my gosh, because you're so used to having that much. You're used to having the 16 ounce of Tower Station, and then we get 12 ounces. You're done with the 12 ounces. You're like, all right, I'll grab another one. And now you're at 24 ounces. You see where we're at? So it's dangerous. It's exciting, but it is, you got to watch yourself.
Drink them at home. In other words, that's what you get 12 pack for. You take those at home. Because what are they? 7.7%? Is that what a Tower Station is? ABV?
Around there.
Yeah, something like that. So it's not something to mess with. By the way, we always preach drink responsibly. Don't be a knucklehead. Just make sure. I don't know why I just need to say that, but everybody used to be like, we're not out here trying to advocate being knuckleheads and pushing the limits. Like, push the limits at home or Uber.
I did that this weekend. Yeah, this past weekend I actually did that, and I was like, I'm at home. I don't care where I'm not going anywhere. Everyone else, and everybody's here drinking non-alcoholic beer, so I don't care. Whatever. I'm gonna have some fun. I'm gonna that
was a whole nother
drinking my Tower Station.
Yeah, well, we're eating an elk heart and drinking non-alcoholic beers because Slavo is not a drinker. So he's like, let me try this this partake. He's like, oh, it tastes like a real beer. And that's what you're finding a lot is with these new non-alcoholic beers, like, oh, at least it tastes like a beer. Because a lot of times if people wanted to hang out and socialize, they didn't drink or whatever, you were drinking stuff, you were forcing it down like, oh.
Yeah. Like seltzer water and lime or something goofy like that. Yeah, it's bleh.
Yep.
Yeah. So, but now you can have a beer if you want to have a beer.
Exactly.
Yes. And have multiple. Go ahead.
See how the Heineken does.
Now you said in the NA though, you said getting to like 3 or going to 4, you're like,
yeah. 2 or 3, I think, is where I'm like, all right, I'm good.
Yeah. Why?
I don't know. It just doesn't. I'm just like, okay, I'm over it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Now, the good thing is,
or is because you're not getting a little buzzy?
I think that's probably what it is. So it's less compelling to keep going. But what was interesting too with the Partake is we had different flavors. So we had the Pale Ale, the Partake Pale Ale, which is very good. Then we tried the IPA, which is very good. And then we had the Blonde, which is a whole different flavor profile. So that's probably a good way to do it, is to have a variety. So if you do make non-alcoholic beers, Athletic Partake, if any local brewers do it, if you have a variety, sell a variety pack. That would go a long way, I think, because you're changing up your flavors enough. Because without the alcohol, it's just a drink, right? It's like drinking water or Pepsi or whatever. It's drinking the same flavor over and over again. It's like, okay, great, I get it.
And don't put a stupid flavor in there. Put 4 basic flavors in there, for the love of grief. I hate it when people mess up packs of good variety packs with something stupid, like a raspberry spritzer or something dumb. Dang it.
Buy it.
No.
In a moment, we'll review our spirit and non-alcoholic beer of the week on the Brewmance on the radio here on 550 KFYI. It's not just craft beers that come in a variety of flavors. Now, a local dairy making milk with flavors that's going to drive you crazy. I'm going to tell you about it here on the Brewmance on the radio here on 550 KFYI. His name is Mike Russell. My name is Rob Hunter. Thank you for hanging out with us as we embark on January challenges. Normally, we're cracking open craft beers. This month, a little bit different. Mike, what are you drinking?
I am drinking Bulleit bourbon. I'm going spirits only, and at least during the week. And it is this is the only bourbon I've ever had. So I'm excited to kind of I've had, this is the one of 2 that I've had. So my bar is set really nowhere. So this is actually going to set the bar. So we'll talk about that in a few minutes. What do you drink?
Very nice. I've got a non-alcoholic beer from Heineken. There's 0.0. Thought we'd try one of the big guys, and we'll tell you about it in just a few minutes. But this milk, Dan is in dairy. They're, I think, based out of Levine. So it's here in the Valley. I've had their chocolate milk, phenomenal. I've had their strawberry milk, phenomenal. Reminded me of being a kid. So it comes in like a little glass bottle. They're updating their flavors. They're adding some new ones.
Sounds fair.
Banana?
It's not going to be like Elkhart or anything like that, no?
You might try it if it was Elkhart.
No, I would not. No.
Elkhart milk. No, but they do have banana milk. That would be interesting.
All right.
They also have peach milk.
Oh, okay.
What's with the face? You should see Mike Russell's face.
This sounds absolutely awful to me. Keep going. What else do they got?
Root beer milk.
Why are we doing this?
Why not?
Why?
Everything comes in flavors. Why not?
Here's the deal. I have not had milk in 7, 8 years, maybe. Yeah, I've not had milk in a really, really long time. And that was nothing personal. I stopped drinking milk for some reason. I don't know why. It wasn't because I used to take just half-gallon jugs down a day. I used to drink milk all the time, icy cold, all about it. But I just stopped drinking milk. So to think about like taking a big chug of milk right now is like, ew. And then it's we're gonna put root beer in it. The only saving grace I think I could have with that is maybe it would taste like a root beer float. Maybe it'd have that kind of vibe to it.
I'm interested. I kind of want to try it. Here's one that you may want to try. Although you just went on this milk soliloquy, maybe not.
Sorry, buddy.
Cold brew milk. Cold brew coffee milk.
Okay. Yeah, I'd probably try that. I have an addiction to cold brew. So I would definitely try cold brew coffee milk. It would be a sip. That would be something where I would take a sip of, because one of the things, going back to banana, I hate imitation banana flavor. I like, remember Runts?
Yes.
Remember that candy? The yellow, that banana was just made me want to choke. It just absolutely awful. So yeah, I wouldn't be about the banana, but the peach, maybe, because once again, I'm trying to give it the benefit of the doubt. Maybe taste like some peach pie and ice cream. Maybe have that kind of little vibe to it, which is my favorite, the pie. So, all right, fine. I'll give it a try. I'll give those two a try. I'll give peach and what's the other one?
Cold brew.
Cold brew. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I am curious.
unless they made the peach with some artificial flavor and like sugary, I can't do that.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see how they're doing it too. But I mean, I just know that they make good milk. Their chocolate milk and strawberry milk phenomenal. I haven't had regular milk, and I didn't other than in cereal. But then again, it's like oat milk or whatever Amy's buying, almond milk. I've tried all the different varieties of milk.
How is almond milk? Because I'll try it. Is almond milk? Is it good? Does it taste?
It's not bad.
Milk? Does it taste like milk?
It does. It's a little bit, I would say, creamier. I guess I would say
earthy,
but it's not bad. Yeah, I don't know if I would drink a glass, like, I'm going to drink a glass of almond milk, but it's perfect for cereal if you can eat some cereal, or you're going to put it in coffee or something along those lines.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, I've seen it a lot, and I like soy milk and all that. I've seen all of that, and I'm like, because I know. I mean, we as humans are the only species that drinks other species' milk, so there's a lot within there to deal with. But that's not why I stopped drinking milk. Like I said, I don't remember why I stopped drinking milk. I just did. So yeah, I'll try a sip.
I wonder how many adults still drink milk on the regular. Like, I'm going to have a glass of milk. I would be curious. I wonder if there's a statistic out there. There probably is. I'll have to research it after the show to see. Oh yeah, 12% of adults still drink a glass of milk every day. Well, interesting. But I haven't had a glass in a long time.
Like, I think about the way I drank it in high school, and there's no way I would do that right now. Like, it sounds so disturbing. We had these big plastic cups, and I would fill it with ice and then fill it with milk. And so it would but the ice would start to melt, and it'd be like watery milk, and it just sounds so disturbing to me right now. Ugh. Sounds like a non-alcoholic Heineken to me.
Milk does a body good. No, it doesn't. It does not do a body good. That's a lie. You are lying to me.
But milk, but the milk lobby's strong, so I mean they're going to keep pitching the chocolate milk is a good recovery drink and all that stuff. And I think the Got Milk campaign was probably one of the most successful campaigns in advertising history.
Amazing. It is amazing what we accept as marketing slogans. Like, oh yeah, okay, cool. It's easy to remember. Got milk? Yeah, okay, I'm going to get some milk. Oh, it's good for me. Milk does a body good. And you just, boom, all milk does a body good. That's it. A simple phrase. And it got America like hooked on milk.
Yeah.
And then doctors are like, no. It's like smoking. Like, it's fine. 4 to 5. You said the other day, 4 to 5 doctors recommend Marlboro. It's good for you. What? Yeah,
because we're following the science and the doctors. And just remember, we're not too many decades removed from 4 to 5 doctors smoke Marlboro. Yeah. So, okay, whatever. Just do it. Once again, do what you do. You gauge you. Stop listening to everybody else. You gauge you.
And and it's funny too, because you often use that as an excuse. I know I have. Milk does a body good. I'm going to drink. No, it doesn't do a body good. Stop it. Stop lying to yourself. Stop telling yourself excuses.
There might be some nutrients. It's like these energy drinks and stuff like that. They're like refuel your body with what, sodium and sugar? Like, okay,
12 and billions of grams of sugar.
Exactly. Come on.
Here's what does your body good.
Here's does your body good? Water. Water does your body good. Coffee does your body good. In moderation, it is a diuretic. And bourbon. And beer.
Yes, exactly. There is actually some properties of beer to actually drink after a workout that they suggest is not a bad idea.
It's a fantastic idea. And a nap.
Always a great idea.
So that's what I'm saying. Workout, beer, nap.
Yep, perfect day. I want to tell you a quick story before we review our beers.
Good.
North Central Pennsylvania. Woman goes into a convenience store. Decides that she's a little thirsty. So she naturally goes to the beer case. Grabs it and runs out the store. Steals the beer.
Okay.
So the store owner or the clerk calls the cops. State trooper responds. Woman sits there, talks to the cop, drinking her stolen beer while conversing with the cop. Yes. Didn't run away. Didn't do anything. Just sits there.
Oh, did I forget to pay for that?
I'm sorry,
it's
officer.
Delicious. Can I offer you one, sir?
Well, if I'm going to steal it, can I drink it before you take me to jail? Thank you.
Because technically, if I didn't drink it, I didn't really steal it.
Yeah.
And understand, we just borrow beer. We never drink beer. We borrow beer. It's just it's a rental is really what it is. Yeah, it just goes in one out the other. That's all it is. It's just a rental. Sorry to piggyback on your joke there, buddy.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. Let's review these bad boys right here. Mike Russell, Bourbon Week.
Go first?
On. Yeah, you get to go first.
That's the Bulleit bourbon. It's a big jug. And like I said, this is the second bourbon I've had. The other was the Jefferson's Reserve, right? I think Rob, you were there with me on that.
Okay. Top of the mountain first.
Right. The Jefferson Reserve and then the Bulleit Bourbon. And here I'm going to make a lot of people mad because once again, I'm not a spirit guy. This is my first really journey into this. So what I taste, I'm like, it's pretty good. I don't have a lot. Like our old friend Bruce would say when he would review movies, he would say, people would see 1 or 2 movies a year and say that was the best movie of the year when he's seen 60 movies in the year. And he's like, but hold on, how many movies have you seen?
Right.
So beer, I can rate beer all day. Bourbon, it's tough for me. So I'm going to say, because I like how balanced this is, like it's sweet, it's easy to drink, and it's got a good little punch to it. I'm going to start with an 8. And then we'll see where we go from there with an asterisk. So I can amend this later as I dip more into the other bourbons. But yeah, Bulleit Bourbon's fantastic. I like it.
It is. It was one of my go-tos as well. It's one of those bottles where you spend a relatively low amount of money. Maybe you're talking $25, maybe $30. You get the big one at Costco, might cost you 35, 38. But it's a good value to have for I'm going to have some bourbon on the rocks.
Yep.
Woodford's another option too. But that's in that class to me of like these good, affordable bourbons. So good job. I like that. You like the Bulleit Bourbon.
I'm in.
Me? Heineken 0.0. This is their non-alcoholic version. I've been told it's pretty good. I've been told it tastes like Heineken. If you like Heineken and you want to try non-alcoholic beers, you will like this. Problem is, I'm not a huge Heineken fan, but it does achieve that Heineken flavor. So in that sense, it's not bad. Now, would I go to it and grab it if I was going to go on another non-alcoholic beer kick? Probably not. I like the craft ones a little bit better, but I also like craft beers better than I like Heineken, so that would make sense. But all in all, the flavor, it's good. I mean, it tastes like a Heineken. So I'm just going to give it a nice 7 because they achieved what their goal was.
And this this spirit and beer review is brought to you by Slavo Salt, slavosalt.com. Put in the keyword brew for 15% off of your order. And let me tell you, you got the OG, the spicy, the garlic. Make it happen. It's the way to go. It makes
the only seasoning you'll need. It does make Elkhart taste good. Broccoli, green beans, chicken, steak, you name it. It's fantastic. Slavosalt.com. Do it.
You haven't tried the popcorn yet, Rob. You have to do it this weekend.
All right. That's the next mission.
So
on that note, I'm going to go do that right now. We got to get out of here. Until next week, 6 p.m. Saturday night, 5:50 KFYI.
Cheers, everybody.